So the Rings of Power season 2.
Season
There's
2.
been some news lately. There's been a little bit of news. Let's start with the confirmation that there's going to be a new character. I can't remember. Was it Romy was his, or Rommel was his code name?
Oh, Rome, Rolm.
Rome, yes. So would you like to tell our listeners who's actually going to be introduced in season 2?
So yeah, we've been able to confirm that Navi, the dwarf, who helped build in allegiance with Celebrimbor, the Doors of Durin, he is going to be in the Rings of Power season 2. We don't know his act yet, but at least we know he is involved somewhat in the second season, which is quite exciting in my mind.
Excellent. Yeah.
Sound.
Johnny, you heard some of this news, did you? Or is this
Yeah.
exclusive to you? Yeah. What do you think?
No, I had heard. I think I heard it from Harry from his channel, and yeah, it's very exciting news as well. I think that's. I mean, I don't like to get too in the weeds with news of stuff that comes out. You're more into that kind of thing. For me, again, I've said this many times on this show that I don't like.
Yeah.
Kind of almost spoiling stuff for myself. Not even it's not a spoiler, but just any information that I get. I'm just the opposite of you, Harry, where you're like, I need to find out all of the stuff. I'm like, I need to stay away from all the information. But I do kind of indulge every now and again when I hear a little bit of news. So and again, when it's little small things like that, I'm like, oh, that's exciting, that's cool. Don't tell me any more. I'm just like, cool, that character's going to be there.
Don't worry, Johnny. Narvi dies in episode 3 anyway.
Yeah.
Well, then if we're not going to... to take away from season 2, another thing that you brought up on your own channel this week or last week, Harry, was the fact that there were a lot of scenes with Celebrimbor in Khazad-dûm, but unfortunately they were cut. These are scenes from season 1. So would you like to explain why those scenes were actually cut?
So these scenes never actually got filmed in the end. Well, they did, but with Tom Budge. He was Celebrimbor for a bit, but then he was, from what we'd heard, he was, and what I've been able to see of the character. If you think, whether you have like opinions of Charles Edwards, trust me, Tom Budge is Celebrimbor. It's like, think of Hugo Weaving's forehead for Elrond, and think of like double that, and then I think it was blonde red hair. It was like, ooh, and
right. So you've seen this footage, have you?
I've seen some
footage. Confirm or deny.
No, but I and a photo potentially of him, that near the identical scene of Celebrimbor entering
Khazad-dûm
with Elrond, and in the show for the first season they had, it was just Elrond and Celebrimbor by himself, and it was a bit weird. But then in the footage I was able to see, they had like guards around them and everything, an accompanying host. So yeah, but then Celebrimbor got recast, and the number one problem that this show, I don't say problem, but the hardest thing about filming the Rings of Power is the scaling work needed between dwarves and elves in the Khazad-dûm, so it's getting the dimensions right. And by the time Charles Edwards had come on board doing that, it was not like, okay, a story thing, they don't want Khazad-dûm and Celebrimbor anymore. It was a technical thing, it's a technicality. Yeah. So, I think logistical.
I think there's some great news in that, because one of the there was a couple of problems obviously that we had with season 1, but one of them was the lack of Charles Edwards, and a lot of it was like, why? What's going on? That was also kind of weird when he just randomly left at Khazad-dûm. We questioned that at the time. I think another thing was, I think Johnny, you might have brought it up, that it was weird just the two of them walking down and no one around, and it just seemed very random. It looked like they were out for a stroll, but you can understand now if, okay, they had to recast and they had to just like shoot this in a couple of days or whatever. It wasn't planned as much as it can now be planned for season 2 if they're going to go on a longer stroll. Maybe they'll have guards with them, and I don't know. I felt like this news was a bit uplifting, because you could see it is annoying that these technicalities get in the way, and there's logistical reasons why some shots are left out, but I think that just bodes well for season 2, where it's not like they didn't think of these things. They actually did shoot these things, but with another actor. So yeah, I thought I found some positives in there. But yeah, what else we have? So,
can I jump in and ask a question that maybe might be
unrelated,
but just a little story that I heard from a source that I won't name at the moment, and I think I want to just confirm it again, Harry. If you don't want to, confirm it or not on this show, I don't mind. But someone told me recently that it's regarding the character of Adar, and we know that he's been recast. We know that Joseph Malway is not coming back, and I think that I'm not sure. I can't remember, but I think the public statement was something that like they had parted ways, or it almost seemed that like Joseph himself had kind of almost wanted to duck out from the Rings of Power series. That's the impression that I got when I first heard it. Someone told me recently that that's not quite true, and maybe it was not even to do with his on-screen antics. It was more to do with his off-screen antics that they decided to part ways. Is that
so? When we first reported that this stuff with Joseph Morley offset, a lot of people got angry at us saying we were dealing in rumor and gossip. But then at the same time, I see if we always reported positive stuff about the show, if they want to do one negative thing, it starts to go in the rumor gossip thing. But from what we understand, it was just I'm not sure the source Johnny's on about, but from what we understood, it was mutually they parted ways. So it's like there was things on both sides, and they thought. I know one thing I know for a fact is that Joseph Marley did not leave the show because he watched the whole show and didn't like it. This decision was made in his head for about nearly a year. This was decided for nearly a year, and Joseph Morley, he is.
Is it true that he's a bit of a method actor and he just kind of stayed in the character of Adar all the time, and maybe that annoyed the people on set because Adar is a creepy guy, and then at the same time, for himself personally, just being in the mind of a character like Adar for such a long time, and the extended shoots during COVID and all that kind of stuff, that really kind of maybe caused him to not want to continue as well. Is that more or less?
So we reported that it was due to his more how on set he was. He's quite method, and sometimes it would be a bit intense. Was the quotes that we were getting? It's quite intense for some of the other actors, and they got on some of the wrong sides of the actors. But then at the same time, I think there's something about because he has hearing difficulties, and it was quite hard on set. And being able to act all this out, and it's so loud, everything's happening. Because a lot of the time with other shows, it's more like on closed sets, but Rings of Power, it's so outdoors and stuff like that. Then he potentially, and then I don't want to go to hearsay him saying that potentially could have been a reason that he felt that it was not the best environment for him to work in. If they were due to him not being able to hear properly. So at the end of the day, they both decided to let go. I know people saying, oh, maybe it was scheduling conflict difficulties. He's on a new show, I think, a Yellowstone's been off Apple TV or something. That's not even started filming yet. And so he could have easily filmed over the last 6 months. So yeah, it's an interesting thing around Adar. So it's a bit of both.
It's a massive shame, I suppose, because he was definitely one of the original characters that came across the best and was definitely one of the standouts. But also when I heard that about just kind of being a method actor and staying in that character on set, it could definitely remind me of, I think a few people have done this when they were preparing for the role of the Joker. I know that obviously Heath Ledger famously, Phoenix. But I heard mainly Jared Leto. I remember when he was preparing for it, I heard some stories of him being like a complete arsehole on set and sending his co-workers or his co-stars like little gift packages with like dead animals or like dead snakes rats, or like sending them his own piss or something like that. Like
I
just
think he sent
weird
a
stuff.
Condom to Margot Robbie, which is very weird.
Like I mean, so I was like, you definitely don't want that kind of energy on set. Like
I don't. Again, at the same time, I think in defense of Joseph Marley, I don't think it was anything that extreme. I don't want to attribute that to his.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
he would send like a orc's head to somebody, or
that would be quite a just. But sending Morphy Clark just a lovely little orc's head, like here you go. But
something I killed this morning.
Yeah, no. Joseph Marley, he's the lucky opportunity I've had to speak to him. He's a really nice guy. So, I don't want to attribute that to him. I think it's more just having to get into character. And it was like. One thing I think we did here was like he'd almost choke himself to get into that character of throwing out how he was and stuff like that. So
Bit like a bit of a Jack Nicholson there for The Shining. Did you ever see him doing his warm up for his scene where he's just like, axe, kill, murder, axe,
yeah,
kill, murder.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
it's more stuff like that in that regard
Yeah.
as opposed to
Yeah.
It must be
crazy.
really difficult for actors when they're playing those types of roles. If you know, as I said, like the
Crazy.
Joker's a famous one of a complete psychopath, or like Jack Nicholson in the Shining. You need to really get into the mindset of those things, and maybe for your own mental health, that's just not a very good thing to do, and not a very
Yeah.
comfortable thing
Yeah.
to do. So it makes sense now hearing that why he, as an actor after a long period of time would say, "Look, I need to step away from this role for my own mental health."
Yeah,
And generally, people are normally like the audience love. Well, maybe except from Jared Leto case, they normally love method actors. They feel like Christian Bale, they really want to get into the role. They show dedication, but then normally actors around them normally don't really like. It's an industry
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
where they don't really
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
So yes, it's
Yeah.
between the
That's a
two.
good point.
Absolutely. I was going to say that it's becoming very unpopular now amongst actors, just speaking out about it and saying, like, I just don't want to work with someone who's going to be obsessed all the time or just not coming
I don't want to work with somebody who's going to be good, better than me. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, we've had, what's the name? Evan Peters in Jeffrey Dahmer, or Dahmer, the TV show. Which
Oh, yeah.
I haven't even finished. Johnny, I know you've watched it, but yeah, that's.
Well, I haven't heard anything about the actor
No,
that played that role. Did he?
No, I just know that I think he's gotten some awards for it, and I know he's done an incredible job, and that's such a mindset that you have to get involved, get
Yeah.
into. But anyways, just before I let you go, there was a couple of other things that came out this week. So the new still images of apparently an elvish courtyard with a statue in the middle. First of all, I just want to say I couldn't help but find similarities between this and something that was buildable in Battle for Middle-earth 2. Whenever you have like the stables or something, you plop it down. It looks exactly like
Yeah.
that little round courtyard. But yeah, some have speculated about this statue. First of all, I won't get into the actor who they speculated that it looks like. I'll let you do the honors. But first of all, what is with the statue, and what is the importance of the statue? Just let us listeners know.
Yeah, so it's come from a set that we've been able to like. I think it's come from users on Reddit as well that I've been talking to for quite a while, and over the month we've followed this developing sets at Bray Studios, and now is what seems to be not confirmed in a Region set, and in the center is a character which people are thinking might be a statue of Feanor, the Jewelsmith himself. And there are lots of reasons why, but I'll go. I think firstly around the actor, people have. I don't want to give this credit to me. I think a lot of people on Tolkien Twitter were able to, fair enough, in a few hours, like put actors and characters face next to the statue, because we know season 1 of Finrod's statue, it looked kind of similar to the actor who I think Will Fletcher, who played Finrod, and yeah, they were able to put Will Keane as an actor. I think if you watch his Dark Materials, stuff like that, he was in that. Yeah, and people say maybe thinking he might be playing Feanor, which is quite interesting. He is in his 50s, but could be a possibility. But the reasons why people think this is Feanor, he seems to be holding up Feanor's hammer, the one that we saw Celebrimbor have in episode 2 and showed Elrond. So that's one thing. Second of all, around it on the floor, around the statue, there's a circle. And there seems to be 3 circular objects and gems in 3 of them, of course, relates to 3 Silmarils. And I think the other thing was like he was holding a jewel in his other hand, which again could potentially a Silmaril. So yeah, I think.
So it looks really cool, and the set looks absolutely fabulous. Well, I don't think I've ever said that before. Absolutely fabulous.
You say it all the time.
Yeah, maybe I do. Actually, there's probably recorded proof on these podcasts. Anyways, another absolutely fabulous actor who has joined is Will Keane, who you've just mentioned there. So I think because we've got this new actor in the show, there's been a couple of new actors announced by yourselves and by the official Lord of the Rings. It seems like people have looked at Will Keane's face and they've compared it to the statue, and they're like, "Oh, this could be him." And if the statue is Feanor, then we'd have to assume that we'd get Feanor flashbacks, because there'd be no reason for him to come in and just like pose as a statue when he's officially on the casting bill. So yeah, that's really cool. We could be getting Feanor in the show, guys. But other than that, I don't know. We have Narvi the dwarf, so we're probably going to get to see the doors of Durin being built. which will be absolutely fabulous. And,
Well done, Dave. You managed to say the Doors of Durin.
I know,
You-
every time I'm like, the Doors of Doran. Every time I have to slow down. But I'm learning fast.